Currently on the health amendment laws, and the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union and allied health sector unions have urged Parliament to shoot down the health amendment bill of 2021, saying it poses a threat to the health sector. KMPDU officials say that the bill seeks to interfere with the independence of the health sector and prevent it from self-regulating itself. They say the bill is an attempt to capture the essential services, saying the removal of professionals from the councils and boards will result in the loss of regulations in place in the event the bill is passed. Now, they're also concerned that the bill has also removed the cadres from managing the health facilities and replaced them with non-professionals. I want us now to speak to Dr. Davji Atela, who's the KMPDU Secretary General, joining us here in studio. Dr. Atela, thank you very much for joining us here on News Center. We saw that march, quote-unquote, yourself and other leaders from various associations and unions to Parliament yesterday, urging MPs to reject this particular bill. And I've just read out some of your concerns. So break it down for us, for a Kenyan to understand. Why do we imagine this health amendment bill 2021 is out to weaken the sector and the bodies therein?
Yeah, thank you so much, Akisa, for having me in the studio today. Basically, when you look at the health bill, as we have been explaining, that it's a direct action by the government to capture the self-regulation and to capture the essential services being provided by the healthcare. Currently, as it is constituted, there are members of the boards, both the pharmacy board, the KMPDC board, the nursing board, and the clinical officers board, which are independent and are supposed to regulate the professionals in their ways of providing services and set actually in the three principles. Number one, they qualify the professionals into offering services. And number two, they regulate them, having in their continuous medical educations and everything that they do. And number three, it also provides the avenue for disciplinary procedures. But now the government, through the Ministry of Health, in the Health Amendment Bill, has proposed to amend this particular proceeding such that all the members of these boards will be directly appointed by the government. In the first place is the chairman of this particular board. The chairman of the board will be appointed by the president, and the president has the discretion on the qualifications. You don't have to be a pharmacist to be the chairman of the PPB. You don't have to be a medical officer or a dentist to be the chairman of the KMPDC, which then now will be denying the professional bodies the autonomy of self-regulating. The other aspect that we have really strongly been repudiating is the aspect that all the government agencies, we're going to have the PS Health, the PS Treasury, the PS Health replacing the technical person who is the Director General, who's a medical, who is a doctor. We're going to have the PS Health, the PS Finance. Yeah. We're going to have AG in this particular part. So the first four will be the government appointees. Then the other four members of all these boards will also be direct appointments by the CS, which then will not go check at the meritocracy of the individuals, but they will check at the loyalty. Yeah. And that's direct autocracy. Because then this person will always be following the commands from, or the allegiance from the CS, and not from the professional organizations. And that's why all the professional bodies, that is the unions, the associations, and even the federations have come out strongly not to allow this bill to go through. Because we had given out memoranda to the Health Committee. And in the presentation that was going to Parliament yesterday, was being tabled, none of the memoranda from any of the association was considered.
What were the recommendations when we were engaging in this public participation exercise as unions and associations after the first reading? What are some of the recommendations, you can speak for KMPDU, that we gave, and was any of it considered in this particular bill?
Number one, in the position of the chairman of these particular boards, as it is currently, we said we need to maintain the professionality and allow the professionals for each of the professional bodies to be the chairperson with the experience of 10 to 15 years, as it has always been. The number two, we want the autonomy of the associations and of the unions to appoint the members of these boards, because it's a self-regulating aspect. Right. It's not a government institution, or a government body that does not regulate the professionals. So the professionals actually subscribe and pay the fees for running of these boards. So we were proposing directly that the boards be left to be autonomous and the self-regulation aspect, which is an international process, to be maintained. Yes.
Some of the justification, when you just brush through that report by the Health Committee of Parliament, some of the justifications on the various acts that they seek to change in this particular bill, they talk about enhancing the integrity process, they talk about ensuring there's no conflict of interest, among other issues that they raise. What are your thoughts on some of the justifications they have given on these changes?
The reason why we are saying it's a state capture is, for example, the removal of the autonomy and the representation of the association, like KMA or PSK in these bodies, and by directly appointed by the CS. And also, you see, when they're removing, they're replacing these bodies with KHPOA, which is directly a government institution. So that aspect is direct control with the government. And what will happen in that scenario is that, for example, the boards, the tenets of and the principles of the board's operations is to ensure who is going to be a member of the professionals, who is going to be professionals, and how the training is going to be done. It then means that if the ministry, through the scams that have been going on of having the foreign doctors coming to the country, then it means there will be no regulation. The minister will just make calls to the board and say, register all those, license all those doctors who come, regardless of the qualifications. When any doctor or any facility have a problem with any political alienation, then the government will just make calls and say, remove that particular doctor from being licensed. When they're sitting down to under disciplinary procedures, if the professionals are not on the table, then any other factors may lead them to making decisions which is not objectively within the careers of the doctors. I mean, if you look at career progressions, it's the doctors that sit down and look at what courses are we doing now. We are becoming surgeons, and these are specialties. Then what are some specialties that we can do? So these are peer regulations that can only happen if the bodies are headed and managed by professionals. The government and some of the recommendations that are putting forth and the reasons that we're putting was the Mwongozo Code.
Yes.
The Mwongozo Code is a policy. It's a policy, but it's, when the government wants to change things, they can use any document that is available to justify their actions. The Mwongozo policy came into effect on 1st of January 2015. But there was an attempt to change Health Bill in 2017. But why is it now that at this point that they're trying to put that aspect of Mwongozo into consideration? And if you look at Mwongozo, it puts a lot of emphasis on integrity and involvement of stakeholders that even this process did not consider. Yes. Looking
at some of these acts in this particular report by the Health Committee, I would ask, it's on the second reading right now. You seem unhappy with everything, if not most, if not all, of what has been put into this particular Health Amendment Bill of 2021. Are we seeking engagement first with relevant bodies, with the ministry perhaps, with Parliament?
You know, by the time that this particular bill is in the second reading, it means that the Ministry of Health and the Health Committee had already bypassed the stakeholders. And if you look at the Article 110 of the Constitution on the public participation, that also was not considered. So generally, I think as the parliamentarians were talking about it yesterday, there's unconstitutionalism in the bill. And the second thing is the aspect of the memorandums that we submitted that have already been ignored. So the best thing that the members of parliament can do to all the health professionals is to, as the words they were using, kill or murder this bill. Because in that pretext, it will remove all the precedence of changing professionals and having professionals to be run by non-professionals. Because today it is the medical profession that's facing this. Tomorrow it will be lawyers. And the next time it will be teachers and it will be accountants. And all this scenario is just a direct way to ensure that everything that's happening in healthcare is not controlled by the professionals. The other thing that we realize is really happening is the political interference. You know, by the time that you open up all the facilities in this country to be managed by non-professionals, like make accountants, the lawyers, the teachers to be the head of the facility, it then means that after elections, the politicians will have a big positions to reward their political allegiances or those who supported them.
Dr. Teller, what you're telling Kenyans who are watching right now is this Health Amendment Bill 2021 is out to weaken the sector.
Absolutely. It is strongly out to weaken the sector and to open the sector for interference with the government and with other agencies. One thing that is known worldwide, and it's international convention, that the only way to have the quality service and to have quality personnel and a quality way of handling healthcare is to have the professionals who understand the healthcare to run it. You know, if you've been in school for 7 years and add another 10 years in the experience, it means you understand how the healthcare system is running. But then if you're removed from a different field, for example, in media or in the accountancy, now run the healthcare, it doesn't mean that it means you're just going to be rewarded the positions without the basic knowledge to handle that particular profession. Yes.
From your statement yesterday, part of how you intend to seek redress is one, what you've talked about, asking parliamentarians to reject this particular bill in the interest of public good, but you're also saying that you'll be calling on members to immediately cease paying fees to BCCs until this matter is resolved. Does that still, and also recall all members currently serving in the board for further consultation?
As a matter of fact, the board receives the funds directly from the members. I believe all these bodies, if you look at the bodies for pharmacists, the body for Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Council, the Nursing Council, everyone pay funds every year of up to 20,000 per individual to run these bodies. They're not getting funds directly from the exchequer for their operations. So then it means that it's not possible to be paying or these bodies to act as agent of collecting funds where they cannot do the self-regulation that they ought to be doing. So the alternative way, if this bill passes, then we'll ask members of each of these particular bodies to desist from being in these bodies. And then we can bring up the peer regulations from each of the associations and each of the sub-associations. It is much more honorable and make more sense if the Surgical Society of Kenya self-regulate themselves, because then they'll look at the framework to offer, to even do the subspecialties of the profession. It is making much more sense for the dentists to have their own associations and self-regulate and pay funds for that, rather than act to pay contributions to regulatory bodies that is fully a government body, which is meant just to mess up the profession.
Do we intend to seek legal redress if this does not happen?
Definitely, if it happens, which I believe that our members of parliament are quite vigilant and are able to understand what is going on. But if it happens, by bad luck, that this bill passes, then we have no other ways but to redress it also in court, because there's so many elements of the Constitution that have been overlooked in the process of handling this bill. Yes.
Elements like which? Just
the
for
public
the sake of our audience, yes.
The public participation was not checked. The memoranda that was submitted by different unions over all the health unions and associations was not considered, and even all the issues that we had discussed earlier were overlooked. So essentially, according to Article 182 of the Constitution, all these matters are quite tenant, and they need to be considered before any bill it becomes an act.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because public participation is very key in this process. So what you're saying is there was public participation. It was done according to the law, but they just disregarded everything that was said by this body. Is that what you're saying?
I believe it is not done according to the law, because what happened is that the Health Committee asked the Ministry of Health to agree with the professional associations, the unions, and the bodies on a joint agreement. Yes. But then whatever recommendations that the associations and the unions gave were not considered. And therefore, they reported their proposals without including all these proposals. And then it moved ahead to go to the second reading. So there's a very big gap in agreement to have the bill actually following the procedure that ought to have been done.
So public participation didn't happen. It's just a perception that perceived to have happened. So where do we go from here as we wrap up?
So from here, we will go back and try to talk to all the MPs and even to the ministry and to the government to understand the value of self-regulation. Clinging to Mwongozo Code does not mean that we have to do away, or rather to handle the professions haphazardly. The professions need to be respected and have dignity for us to offer better services and quality services to all the Kenyans. Yes.
Maybe just if we replicate this to other bodies, because when we were speaking before we went on air, you said this is not just about the health sector. This is about every other sector. If this kind of laws are put in place for other sectors, What do you say to that?
Yeah, one thing I would say about that is, if, for example, Akisa, you're asked to be the Chief Justice in the judiciary,
I would not know
you will
how
not be able to handle the same thing.
Yes.
And that's what actually is happening in the health sector, because they will ask you to be the head of the council, for Kenya Medical Practitioner Dentist Council. So it's necessarily political interference. And with this, we are going to do away with the values that we've created over time regarding to the quality of personnel that we have in this country. And I'll tell you for free that doctors from Kenya are always the best promotes in the world. And everywhere they go, they actually do not struggle to survive. And that is because of the peer-to-peer and self-regulation that has been attained in this country. But if that goes to the dogs or goes somewhere, then we're going to lose our value as a country in terms of the professional that we provide. Yes.
Industrial action, perhaps? Is it a consideration?
We always have rights to do everything that is on the table.
Yeah.
We always engage on these aspects. By the time we go to courts, we will discuss as all the unions and associations, and that is not far-fetched, because it is the constitutional right that we have in Article 41, that when we have engaged enough and things are not done according to how they should be, then that's also an option that we will not shy away from using. And we will go on industrial action of not only doctors, but of all the healthcare professionals in the country.
All right,
yes.
Great. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Dr. Davji Atela, the Secretary General of the KMPDU, saying they will remain relentless in asking for the Health Amendment Bill of 2021 to be shot down, terming it as one retrogressive and out to weaken the health sector, and especially the boards and councils governing the various bodies within the health sector. Dr. Davji Atela, thank you very much for joining us here on News Center. And I want us now to quickly take a short commercial break here on News Center. When we get back, a lot of other issues to converse, taking a look at the big stories of the day that we'll be following up on here in our newsroom. Our reporters are also stationed in various parts of the country to just take a look at what is happening. So stay with us. We still have a lot more lined up.